thanks so much for your time. I know you've worked with Dominic Perrottet a lot over the years. He looks like a shoo-in today. Will he be a good Premier?
He sure will, Laura. He's the right person for the recovery and rebuild. He's a family man, very small business oriented, financially savvy, obviously, with his role as Treasurer, where he's done a great job. Deep understanding of Western Sydney. He comes from the northwest and the west and southwest. He will understand, does understand extremely well. That's where the rebuild is going to be toughest, because that's where the impact has been greatest. As a result of what's happened over recent months. Small businesses there need to get up and running. So he is absolutely the right person. He's able to reach out across the factions and work across the factions in New South Wales, which is always challenging. Just the way his leadership bid has come together tells us a lot about that, and I have no doubt he'll be able to work very effectively with the new National Party leader. So ticks the key boxes there, Laura. I'm very confident he will be a great leader and a leader for the times. Recovery is what it's all about now, and Dom is the right guy to do that.
Well, we look at the recovery and post-COVID, but you mentioned the factions there as well. The factions among factions on the moderate side of politics in New South Wales is a little complicated, a little different, and it has been quite bitter over the last 3 days. Is party unity a problem? Is Dominic Perrottet, as a Conservative, able to bring the moderates with him?
Well, he's been doing it. I mean, he's obviously got a very strong relationship with people across the parliament, and that's incredibly important as a leader in New South Wales or anywhere for that matter, of course, Laura. And I'm confident Dom is able to manage that, because he has empathy for the different parts of New South Wales people come from. He really understands those different regions. And look, the election, which is still a couple of years away, that he has to prepare for, and the work he has to do in the rebuild is all about bringing people together, working through a recovery which won't be easy, but he is incredibly well qualified to lead, because it's economic issues that will dominate as we come out of the pandemic. So I think he's very well positioned, and people see him that way. Now, leadership bids, there'll always be stuff going on under the surface. You've been reporting on lots of it, but the one thing I've seen is a very strong concerted push from across a range of different parts of the party to get Dom into the leadership role, because he's the right person for the time.
Well, Mark Speakman had reportedly set off a bit of a warning, saying Dominic Perrottet will be the most conservative leader New South Wales has ever seen, or at least since World War II. Do you think that's true? And if you do, is it a problem?
Well, I tell you what's true is Dom Perrottet will lead for all people in New South Wales. I have no doubt about that. And his capacity to lead across a range of different regions and people with different backgrounds is the thing that I think is a standout characteristic of the man. And it reflects the breadth of his background, his experience. He was a lawyer in one of Sydney's top law firms before going into politics. He can work at that professional top end of town, but also hails from northwestern Sydney, tradie territory, understands that part of the world extremely well. And it's that breadth of experience and of understanding of people across New South Wales that I think will stand him in such good stead, and is the reason why he has had strong support from not just across the Conservative side of the party, but the moderate side of the party. I think people can see what Dom can do to lead, to heal, to bring people together at a tough time. I mean, seeing Gladys go under these circumstances obviously is something that none of us wanted to have happen. She's been a wonderful leader, taking us through incredibly difficult times, but Dom is the right person to lead us out from here.
Well, you mentioned Gladys Berejiklian. She's not going to be here today, but have the events of the last couple of days strengthened or weakened an argument for a federal ICAC, do you think?
Well, I think what it's highlighted is that these institutions need to be set up right. I mean, procedural fairness matters. The presumption of innocence matters. The way these sorts of events take place really matters. And so that is why we've been working through this very carefully. Amanda Stoker is working through it now. We'll have legislation ready before the end of the year, and it needs to be done right. But, there's been she's the third Premier in New South Wales over an extended period of time who've been subjected to this sort of outcome. I'm not going to try to adjudicate on the merits of her particular case because there's more to go, obviously. But the one thing I would say is she's done a great job as Premier. She's led it through difficult times. I feel privileged to have lived in New South Wales through this pandemic. And I have no doubt that Dom will manage that baton change and lead us in New South Wales through the next era, which is a rebuilding era.
OK, just quickly onto your portfolio, Mr Taylor. I note that this morning you've announced a $30 million grant for a gas project in the south of Sydney, south of here. And Twiggy Forrest is involved. Why does he need a government subsidy?
Well, it's not about that. It's about a project that is a good project. Look, we're seeing around the world at the moment, Laura, the extraordinary need to have balance in our electricity systems to make sure that with the record levels of investment we're seeing in renewables in this country, the highest level of household solar in the world in Australia, no one touches us, 1 in 4 houses and rising. You need to have that balanced with dispatchable generation that can be flicked on and off fast, like Snowy 2, our hydro project in the Snowy Mountains, and like gas generators that, just like your gas cooker at home, you can turn it on and off very, very fast as the sun goes down or you lose those renewable resources during the day. And so that balance is crucial. We're determined to maintain it. We're driving reforms through National Cabinet, which have got through the Energy Committee of National Cabinet in recent times and now the National Cabinet. Incredibly important reforms to maintain balance in our electricity grid to avoid what we're seeing in Europe and in Texas and other places around the world at the moment. And that means we've got to have enough gas generation. So we make no apology for making sure we've got affordable, reliable electricity and energy in this country.
OK, anything to take to Glasgow yet, 2030 or 2050 target?
We'll be putting out our long-term plan in the coming weeks before Glasgow, Laura, and I'm sure I'll be talking to you then.
OK, I look forward to it. I was hoping you were going to break that news to us here on AM Agenda this morning, but, we are greedy for breaking news here this morning. Angus Taylor, appreciate your time. We will speak
you're going to get some soon, I'm sure.
OK, all right, we are just after 10 a.m, I would say.